Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, July the 30th. It is the 212th day of the year. There are 154 days left in the year 2024. And welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Tom. Well, the Olympics are here, and maybe you got a chance to watch some of it. I don't generally watch it till track and field, which is my favorite sport. But it's been interesting, and we'll see where it all turns out. The medal count right now is, let's see, Japan's got 6 goals, France has got 5, China's got 5, Australia's got 5, the U.S. has got 3. The U.S. has got 20 overall, which leads, but still we'll get to the sports that are probably a little more attractive down the road. So it all started back in 1987 or so. Somebody made the decision at CBS Television to make a television series out of the iconic television film In the Heat of the Night. The decision was not only to make the show, but to shoot it on location, which wasn't done a lot back then, to actually take the crew to the location and shoot 13 episodes or 22 episodes the whole time you were on location. The first year was shot in Louisiana, and there was trouble. It was decided then to shoot it in Mississippi because that's where the show takes place. But Mississippi said they didn't want it because it would be a negative slight on that state. A negative slight on Mississippi. No more comment. The following years through 1995, it was shot on location in Conyers and Covington, Georgia. It was a hit and remained so through the many years that it's been on television with many around the country. Our G-List guests today are from the In the Heat of the Night fan club. And that's Anthony, Antley, Laurie, Jason, and maybe some others in the chat. They'll be joining us to chat about their annual trip to Sparta and share why they love this iconic show so much. Should be a fun and nostalgic show. Our show today, of course, is sponsored by the Best Girl consulting firm. Let's hear from Best Girl.
Best Girl is a consulting firm that provides customized leadership, access and inclusion, public relations, communications, and organizational consulting services. Clients include Fortune 500 companies, utilities, higher education institutions, small businesses, and associations. Best Girl's team of consultants, led by Joyce Gilly-Gossam, Emily Hedrick, and Sean Jones, partners with business and education clients to promote organizational effectiveness, communication, motivation, and leadership, with always an impact on the bottom line. Best Girl's customized consulting services include strategic planning, corporate communication, executive coaching, fundraising, and economic development.
Customizes a solution that fits your needs. So let's go to our roundtable regulars, Barbara Wallace Edwards and Michael Walker this morning. Good morning, Barbara Wallace Edwards. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Tom. I'm doing well, thank you. And how are you this morning?
Very well, thank you. Hi, what's going on in your world?
Well, Tom, first I want to start by offering condolences to the Powell family. I don't know if you've heard, but Miss Alma Johnson Powell, who was the wife of late Secretary of State General Colin Powell, passed away on yesterday. So sending condolences to her family. I didn't realize they'd been married almost 60 years when he passed away. So that they were together for quite some time, but she was truly a stand-up lady, classy lady. So great loss there. And I want to send a shout out to a young man in North Alabama. I don't know this young man, but I was really inspired by his story. This young man, Jaden Sumbry, he's 20 years old. He's determined to raise money for his education by showcasing his drumming skills every weekend at the Walmart in Madison, near Madison, Alabama. His mother or his grandfather drives him to that Walmart every Saturday morning. They say rain or shine, he's out there with his drums playing, trying to get people to come by and listen to him. And a lot of people will make a donation on the spot. But others have also set up a GoFundMe account to help him. He's attending a community college there in that area right now, but his dream is to attend Florida A&M and become a member of the Rattlers marching band there. So he has high hopes of raising enough money that he'll be able to continue his education and go to Florida A&M. If anyone would like to make a donation towards this young man's education, his name is Jayden, Jayden, Sumbry, Sumbry. You can look him up on Cash App. He has a Cash App and a GoFundMe set up. So congratulations, Jayden.
Okay, well, let's go to Michael Walker and see what's happening in this world. Good morning, Michael. How are you, bud?
Good morning, TG. I'm doing well. I hope you are too.
Doing very well. Thank you.
Great. Good morning, Barbara.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. Well, thank you.
Great. Fantastic.
What's happening with you, Michael?
Well, Tom, you mentioned the Olympics, and I enjoy watching the Olympics because I like to hear the backstories of the athletes, the things that they've been through and overcome just to get there. And there's some interesting stories. This one really does not lack for attention. There's a young lady by the name of Kanya Sesser. She was born without any legs, and she just set the world record for a handstand on a skateboard, a little less than 20 seconds. To be accurate, it's 19.65 seconds she was able to stand on a skateboard while it's rolling on her hands, and she has 0 legs. And when I say 0 legs, I mean 0 legs. No legs from her pelvis down.
Wow.
And there's a picture of her on her hands with little cut off blue jeans and a t-shirt skateboarding. And that's just amazing to see that. She's 31 years old. She's an athlete, an actress, and get this, a runway model. And she completed that stunt in Los Angeles for the Guinness Book of World Records. And she has a shirt that says, "No legs, no limits."
Wow.
And she has really, she says she feels like she made an impact on people's lives for generations to come to be able to do that. There's another story that I find interesting.
I want to ask you, who are there other people that participate in this sport?
Yeah, other people that do that, but I guess she set the record, I guess, for doing that.
And that's an Olympic sport?
Well, they're doing skateboarding at Olympics as well as breakdancing and all of that type of stuff.
I knew breakdancing was added. Yeah. Yes.
I'm sure she'll probably end up being on the Paralympics because that starts right after the Olympics.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I'm thinking. And there are quite a bit of people at the Olympics that are older, because you think of the Olympics as being young, right? There's a lady who's Asian, 61 years old, and she is destroying the athletes half her age. She's playing table tennis.
Wow. That's interesting.
She won her first medal, I think, and match or whatever in 1983. And one of her first opponents was just born in 1993 that she's playing.
Wow.
There seems to be certainly more events than when we grew up.
Yes.
Yeah. Because what I remember is track and field more than
right.
Yeah.
That was the sport that you wanted to watch.
Right.
Not even basketball, but track and field was the big sport. So it's interesting that those things have surfaced, break dancing and all that.
Yes, that is unusual.
What kind of sport is that? I
don't know.
I didn't know. Somebody asked me, is breakdancing a sport? I said, well, I didn't know. I guess
they made it one now, I guess. So
it's so funny.
Part of the competition.
You just mentioned basketball, and every year or every 4 years when we have a basketball team, they always compare them to the '92 team, which is the dream team.
The dream
and can they beat them and all this simulation? Well, this team USA, this version of the dream team, has not been playing very well. They've been out of sync of sorts, and they took on the Joker on Sunday and Serbia. And the Jokers team was up like 10-2 or something like that on them. And, they kind of called a timeout. LeBron shifted into high gear. And then the score was like 19-14. And in walks like a gunslinger. I call him 6'10", 210. But he's known as the Slim Reaper. He's also known as Garantula. Kevin Durant, also known as KD. He had not been playing because of a calf injury. He walked in off of the bench cooking. He shot 8 of 9 from the field, had 23 points in 17 minutes. They had no answer for him. And that just blew the game wide open. It was interesting to see that because everybody kept talking about, he hadn't played in any games or anything. He hadn't played basketball since April. And because he had this calf injury. And he just walked in and strutted in like he was at the OK Corral and started shooting. It was fantastic,
So they had a little controversy because Jason Tatum didn't get to play.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's hard if you're coaching a team like that. Everybody on the team you got 2 or 3 guys, maybe the guy from the Celtics that plays point guard, maybe Drew Holiday, who you could see that maybe they didn't get a chance to play. But
right.
But Tatum and those guys, they're expecting to be out there, man. So I don't know. I just wondered if there was something with him and Kerr,
No,
Yeah.
well, Kerr came out and said that it was just because they were trying to get Kevin Durant back in the mix because he hadn't played at all. And they were trying to get him in. And, sometimes, Tom, how it is, you put somebody in or somebody go in the game, hadn't played, and they're hot. You don't want to take them out if they're hot.
Sure.
You keep feeding the ball. And so I see it more of that than anything else. But he has said that Tatum is going to play in the upcoming game, the next one coming up, which will be a pretty interesting one from Sudan. Which, while we're on the Olympics, I found something to be pretty interesting. The gold medals and everything that's being awarded and what have you. Did you know that America pays its athletes $37,500 for every gold medal that's won, $22,500 for every silver medal, and $15,000 for a bronze? We're 18th among the countries that's represented. Get this.
In terms of paying?
Yes.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that.
Hong Kong pays $768,000 for the top 8 finishes.
Wow.
Okay. Israel, who's in a war now, they paying $275,000 for scaling bonuses based on the medal type.
Individually?
Yeah. Yes. These are Serbia, 218, Malaysia, 214, Italy, 196.
Make sure I understand this. So they get this money per individual, per gold medal.
For the gold medal. Yeah.
Per the individual medal.
Yeah, for the individual medal.
And
so that's not for the entire Olympics. That's per medal.
No, that's for medal.
Wow.
It says right here, the 15 countries and territories offering 6-figure payouts for gold medalists in individual sports.
Interesting. Now, one of these athletes want to go back and compete for their home country.
Yeah. And then some of them, they take the money and turn it into a pension for them. One place I read where they make it rent-free for them. They don't have to pay rent for the lifetime, all kinds of stuff going in. So that's just true. That's truly amazing.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Good for them.
Yeah.
You probably, you worked more than 4 years to get there. So.
Right.
Yeah. You put a lot of time, a lot of travel and stuff, a lot of expenses, and then to go and represent your country and you get there. So I'm happy to hear that. The last thing I have for you is, have you seen the women's rugby team? Man, they're playing a little bit of bully ball.
I
haven't seen it.
They have this girl named Ilana Meyer, She's 5'10", 200, solid. And she took a pitch like you remember those tall sweet Tom in football? She
I
took
saw it.
one of those and hit the sideline, and she was rolling. They were playing against China, and two girls came up on her. This one girl, as they said, made a business decision, kind of bagged off. The other girl came up. She hit her with a stiff arm and face planted her into the turf and kept rolling.
Oh,
And they were
wow.
like, look at her go. And then the next game, I can't remember, they were playing Brazil, and she did two more stiffs. She did a stiff arm on this one girl, kept going. The girl came back at her. She stiffed arm her again and went in for the touchdown. And Derrick Henry ended up touching base with her and saying, that's how you do it, because he's known for the stiff arms and
Right.
stuff. And it's so funny how, but people, I don't know, some people always gotta complain or try to belittle somebody. Somebody wrote in on X, formerly known as Twitter. She must have 30% body fat. Look at her, or something like that, to body shame her. And the girl is really, she's thick, but she's lean. You know what I'm talking about. People can
Yeah.
be thick, but they're
Right.
lean and not fat.
Right.
And so
All
she came
muscle.
back on Twitter and said, you're right. My body mass index is 30%. She said, well, 29.96 to be exact. She says, I'm 5'10", 200 pounds. If you can do the math, that's 30% body fat. So that means I have 170 pounds of lean muscle.
Right.
So you can just come on up to me and hit me in the chest and say it again. She did it on Twitter.
Rugby is something that's just not taken off here in the South very much, and you don't ever hear of anybody playing rugby around here. So it's not a game that I've even watched before, but it's very close to football.
When I was coming out of Auburn, there was a lot of rugby being played.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they were teams and so on and so forth. So
right. And Clemson had an intramural league for rugby.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Who is that, Mike?
Clemson.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, several teams did. I mean, there were a few teams, and I did see some of the highlights from that game yesterday. I think it was yesterday, wasn't it? I don't,
Yeah. Of the girl running.
So you start watching it.
Right.
Yeah. They're tough, man.
Yeah.
I don't think rugby is something I'd want to play.
So, yeah. Like playing football without the pads on.
That's what it is.
Yes.
Exactly. Barbara, you got anything else?
Well, Tom, here in the state of Alabama, the SB 129 bill, which is going to be effective October 1st, is changing a lot of things at universities here in the state of Alabama and forcing them to close their DEI offices. So Auburn released a statement on yesterday that they are closing their DEI offices effective August the 15th, and they are going to reassign all of the associates to other offices and other positions within the university. But I was happy to hear that the university said they're still focused on making sure that all students and alumni, faculty feels welcome, valued, respected, and engaged, even though they're forced to implement this bill and close their DEI offices. We just don't know what all that's going to mean when it all bubbles down. You look at things like BSU, Black Student Union, and a lot of other organizations that were set aside just for minority students, how that's going to impact those things. So I think once the students are back on campus, we will see and probably hear more about what impact that's going to have. And, Auburn's, of course, not the only one. Alabama made their announcement on last week for all of the colleges and universities in their system. So Jacksonville basically dismantled their offices and I think actually let some employees go. So again, it's a statewide bill, and we'll see what the impact is going to be later on. But it's not a good feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I know everybody isn't dismantling their offices.
Right.
I know that for a fact. And they're changing the name. They're doing different things.
Okay.
You said something about them knowing, having time to prepare for this. Something you said, I don't know. Anyway, hell, they've been knowing about this since the first of the year, almost a year ago. This thing came, so there's been plenty of time to figure this out.
That's true.
And I don't know. It depends on what value the office was bringing to the university. Anyway.
That is so true.
So, I know, Michael, you got any comments about this?
Not really. It's very disappointing that it's come to this. It's people that do not really understand DEI, as we said before. They look at it as simply black and white. It's a lot more than that.
A lot
like
more.
The young lady I talked about that was born without legs.
Mm-hmm.
Paul South, who was on the show.
Yes,
right,
Paul.
Right. So I see it as ignorance coming from them and a refusal to educate themselves and open their mind. That's the result of this. And it's so interesting. It's become, well, it was already political, and that's the problem. Is the fact that it became political. But there was some representative here most recently after Kamala Harris got the Democratic nomination that called her a DEI vice president.
Right.
She was a DEI hire. He was a Republican from Tennessee. And he really sounded so ignorant to say that, and if you're trying to grow your party, but I just caught myself, maybe that's not what they're trying to do, but you say things to offend people
and divide the country.
And then you expect them to support you.
Right.
So, I dare somebody to call me a DEI anything because I have the qualifications to back it up.
But let me say this. I don't know that you even have to go there, because who in the hell said DEI was a negative?
Exactly. It's not.
So it's not a negative. It's never
not
negative for me.
Right.
So you don't have to defend yourself. You're in the position you're in because you've earned it.
Right.
And for those who don't think you've earned it, I'd love to look at their qualification.
Yes.
Because we know that a lot of people still are favored in our society versus people who earn things in our society.
Absolutely.
And I thought that was so, whoever that guy was came up with this whole, she's a DEI person. I guess it bothers me because, and I'll say we, although we didn't do anything, we'll just say we have allowed that to become a negative.
Right.
It's not a negative.
Right.
And so I think we, not just me, you and Barbara, but we,
all of us, yes,
need to deal with that in a way that lets sleepy people like that guy from Tennessee, man, go find you something to do.
Right.
You ain't got nothing to do. You probably from some get back little town that people elected you who didn't even know who you were.
Only elected him because they knew who he were.
You had a R by your name, or you had a D by your name,
right? And
that was who they're going to vote for.
Exactly.
So I don't know. I just find that to be offensive. And
absolutely.
Tom, I agree with you. It is very offensive, and that's the reason why I made that statement. And I agree with you. But it's funny, and I read this, and somebody said, John F. Kennedy became president because his daddy paid for it.
Come on now.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I also read that George Bush Jr. became president because his daddy was president.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So you look at stuff like this, and we'll talk about it right now. The Supreme Court basically opening the door for Donald Trump to walk back in with their ruling about presidential official duties. Everybody knows damn well that the stuff he was doing wasn't under presidential duty.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So that's DEI working. Okay. And it's been working that way in this country. But when we try and move it over so other people that have been marginalized and been shortchanged in this country, when we try and give it give them a fair opportunity, then there's a problem with it.
Absolutely.
So, go ahead, with
and
it. I just,
it's
you know,
interesting that you know these people sit around and come up with stuff like this.
Yes.
Well, what can we do? And essentially, it's sort of, well, what can we do to screw a whole lot of people over?
Yeah,
You know?
that's exactly what it is. And while we're talking about this, Tom, I don't know if you all had an opportunity to watch Joy Reid shows last night, but she went in depth. Had her full show was dedicated to talking about this project 2025. And I know it's over a 900-page document, but there's some stuff in there that is so scary. We're what we're seeing now with DEI being dismantled on universities and the educational system. Project 25, along with many other things, is talking about doing. It's moving that into the corporate America, into government, everything. They want to do away with it everywhere. And DEI is not, to me, it means definitely earned it. That's what DEI stand for. We have worked hard for everything we've gotten. And so people just need to really focus on what people are trying to do and move us backwards instead of forward. And if we're going back.
I'm going to talk, I'll just say this about Auburn in particular, because that's one institution I'm really familiar with. DEI hadn't done anything to affect Auburn negatively.
Right.
We low in the number of students, black students. We probably last in the SEC.
Absolutely.
Last in affirmative action program, so on and so forth. So what is it about DEI that bothers you, other than the name? And other than maybe a black person got helped?
It's the name and what it stands for. That's what it is. Not so much as what it's done. To your point, Tom,
well,
the DEI numbers at Auburn didn't change at all. Basically,
they went down.
So having a DEI program at Auburn was minuscule. In other words, other than the fact of saying we have one. Because
but some people want to take us back to before 1964, Tom, when there were no blacks there, and that's what I think that's what they're trying to do. Is DEI in their mind is going to make room for more of people that look like them.
I think DEI in their mind is a political play. It's something we can do to play. We're playing politics here.
Absolutely.
Some schools have gotten rid of it. Some schools have just changed the names. Some schools have gotten rid of their employees. Some schools just moved them to other places. So there is no one way to get rid of it. I don't know that I would doubt that the majority of schools are getting rid of it. Now they may change the name, but this is just politics, man. And our politics is really funky these days. It's all about division. And, if you can be a Republican, you can be a Democrat, you can be all that and still get along. But
that is so true.
The way it works now, you can't really do that.
You're absolutely right. I agree with you. But and I don't know why people feel they have a need to do this. Take, for instance, J.D. Vance, the new VP for Trump. He makes a statement that this country is run by childless cat ladies. Right. And then he names Kamala Harris, and then he named Pete Buttigieg. So you calling Pete Buttigieg a childish cat lady to come up and say stuff like that, and you're running for vice president. It just makes no sense to me whatsoever. And I liken to what Tom is saying about DEI. It's all political, because
what they're doing is galvanizing people to fight against them. I heard that there was a call last night. There was 150,000 white men in support of Kamala Harris online, and they raised over $4 million in just that short period of time because they're sick of it. They're tired of the divisiveness and the political games that people are playing. And so I think a lot of people are just sick and tired of it, and they're standing up against it. And it's time.
Let me ask this question, because we need to get on. We're running behind, but let me ask this question. They wouldn't do it if people didn't respond to it. There's obviously a group of people, and I don't want to put a name on it. I don't think they're all Republicans, all Democrats, all purple, all gold, all red state, blue state, all that silly shit. Excuse me, but that's what it is. It's silly to me.
Right.
It's political theater. It's how they get it. When they moved things to districts, and I remember in Alabama when this happened, when stuff became districts, and you had one black congressional district in the state of Alabama, one.
Yes.
And so that means if you had 9 representatives, only one was going to be a person of color. And everybody went along. Ooh, that's nice. That's good. Well, what's good about it?
Right.
I don't know. Michael knows I'm not a political guy, so
right.
I don't politics and theater. Anyway, let's go see what the heat of the night people got for us.
Yes, please.
Anyway, let's let Sean come in. Sean's got a minute.
Good morning to everyone joining in with us. My name is Shantia Jones, and this is Got a Minute. Greetings from South Florida. It's hot, it's humid, and boy, am I over it. Anywho, I gotta keeping on to share that on this day, in 1965, President Lyndon B. Johnson signs Medicare, a health insurance program for elder Americans, into law. At the bill signing ceremony, former President Harry Truman was enrolled as Medicare's first beneficiary and received the first Medicare card. Johnson wanted to recognize Truman, who in 1945 had become the first president to propose national health insurance, an initiative that was opposed at the time by Congress. The Medicare program, providing hospital and medical insurance for Americans ages 65 and older, was signed into law as an amendment to the Social Security Act of 1935. Some 19 million people enrolled in Medicare when it came into effect in 1966. In 1972, eligibility for the program was extended to Americans under 65 with certain disabilities and people of all ages with permanent kidney disease requiring dialysis or a transplant. In December 2003, President George W. Bush signed into law the Medicare Modernization Act, which added outpatient prescription drug benefits to Medicaid, and a state and federally funded program that offers health coverages to certain low-income people, was also signed into law by President Johnson on July 30th, 1965, as an amendment of the Social Security Act. Thank you all for joining in. My name is Shantia Jones, and this has Got a Minute.
Thank you, Sean. Well, see, we have Medicaid, Medicare, so all that pre-DEI stuff.
Yes.
That was DEI then, but we didn't call it DEI.
Right.
Anyway, let's go to our G-list guests today, and they are members of the In the Heat of the Night fan club. Anthony, Antley, Laurie, and Jason are here with us this morning. They'll be joining us to chat about their annual trip to Sparta, Mississippi, which is actually Covington, Georgia, and share why they love this iconic show so much. Should be fun. So every year they go to Sparta, to Covington, Georgia, to relive the show. So good morning, Heat of the Night gang.
Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, Tom.
Good
morning, Barbara. Good morning,
Good
Michael.
morning.
Laurie, Jason.
How was your
Antley.
trip?
It was a great trip. We, get to step back into a kind of a fictional world for a little while. And, what started out about 10 years ago was just a neat trip to see what Sparta looked like has become, we've grown into a family. And now it's like a family reunion when we go every year. So it's really nice. We look forward to it every year.
Good deal. Good deal. Barbara, you got a question?
I do. You talked about going back like 10 years ago. So is there one person at the center of all this to decide, okay, hey, I'm going back, I want everybody to come join me? Tell me how you actually got started and became that family that you are. Jason.
I think Laurie, it started back with going back to the Chamber of Commerce at the time in Covington. Jenny McDonald Hilton, and she worked with Laurie and Ray Witt and some others, and they started an initial reunion. And from that point forward is what grew us into a family. And Laurie was in the background of that the whole time. She can probably speak to it a lot better than me, but that was what brought us down, was our communication with Laurie and with Jenny. And that's what got us to town to start with.
Laurie, you want to talk about it?
Well, it's been about 10 years ago. Jason's about right. And, Jenny had hosted a trolley tour. About 5 people showed up because it was just to see, if they could get interest in people coming. So I made friends with Jenny and Ray, and we, after we did the little tour, I wanted more. So Ray and I met, later that year. I think it was, Labor Day weekend, and he took me to places because Tom, as you know, Sparta isn't just in Covington. It goes from Conyers all the way out to Rutledge and all kinds of social circle and different places like that. And so Ray took me all those places, and I said, Ray, we could get our trip paid for if we started doing tours and to take people to these places. Well, that never panned out. What happened was, we charged what it cost to rent a van, and about 15 of us started meeting. Well, our group has kind of dwindled down because, like I said, heat brought us together, but love keeps us together. And, then it evolved into inviting cast members to our gatherings or to dinner on Saturday evening. And Tom, that because we invited you. And then we've become friends with cast members. I mean, I share scripture with Alan Autry every day, and Dee and I talk because of Antley's wedding. Dee and I became best friends because we shared a room at for the wedding, and now I go to Covington and I stay at her home. And what's really fun is after dinner one evening in Covington, we took Dee back to a one of the filming sites, and we recreated that scene with her. And it's so ironic because she is amazing, and she's got a memory like you wouldn't believe, and a memory to detail, because she remembers, and Jason and I were just talking about this, she remembers where people were standing, what people were saying, what they were doing. Sorry, my dog wants to be on the camera. And anyway, so it's just phenomenal. And we were friends with Grady and until he passed, and he had a remarkable memory up to his passing as well. So, like I said, heat brought us together, but love keeps us together. That's why we keep coming back every year. We keep exploring and finding new sites, and we try to visit Tom, but he's never in, or Ted Marcus, but he's never in his office when we go. So I don't know what he's up to. Anyways, we just have a good time, and it's more about coming together and finding new places and just being together, I think, more than anything.
That's great.
That's great.
The love of the show turned into love for each other.
Antley and Anthony, you guys want to pitch in, and then we'll go to some questions and the photos.
Well, like Laurie said, it started out as a gathering, but now it's an annual trip. For me, my birthday, my 4th of July.
Yeah, you always go on the 4th of July. Yeah.
And I try to get down there for December for Christmas season, but now since I got married, somebody regulates when I can go, when I can't go. So, I still got those 2 trips that I'm definitely going.
Well, don't
You know,
get
my
divorced,
lawyer
man.
did not tell me that, you know, when you get married, that, you know, the wife is going to regulate when you can and can't go.
I
So,
told
you know, I get 2 trips a year. I'll try for 3, but I'm definitely getting 2.
Anthony, you need to go and counsel with some guy who's been married about 25 years. He'll tell you how you're supposed to behave.
Well, Antley was on divorce court before he got married. So how backwards is
Laurie, thanks for bringing that up. I mean, yes, that was true. Me and my wife, we did do an episode of Divorce Court the week before we got married. No, the week of, actually. And me being the person that I am, I brought Covington up.
you did?
And when I went back in July, people like, oh man, you got people coming to Covington because they want to go to the bridge, like the guy on divorce court. They want to go to that bridge
There wasn't
and
that.
everything like that. I mean, it's crazy.
It is.
Anthony, you got some comments?
Starting to go to Covington was because of Antley. Antley had called me up to say to come down. He was having a birthday celebration in March for his birthday, and he had called me up, and then I had surprised him to come down for his birthday. So that was my start in coming to Covington every year. Was because of his celebration of his birthday, and then of his wedding in last April. So it's just one big happy family. I mean, we have our mistakes, our faults, but you know, we all try to love and love one another and keep the family going.
I think it's wonderful. I do. I think it's great that you guys do this. And I don't know, it depends on where you are, but where I live, Heat of the Night comes on 4 times a day. So you kind of got your choice of if you want to watch an episode or what have you. And I think the other thing that to me that was really important, you know, Atlanta is the mecca now of film and television outside of Los Angeles. But that started within the Heat of the Night.
Mm-hmm.
Carol would bring the whole company to Covington Conyers in August, and they would be there until about May. And that was just something that didn't happen before in the Heat of the Night made it happen. And so it's historical in a lot of ways. Michael, you got a question?
Yeah, what I like to know, and this is for everyone, what is it about In the Heat of the Night that brings the common bond between you? What is it about that show that struck a nerve with all of you guys that brought you together? What's the common theme there?
Initially, when I started watching it, it was reruns, and I had just moved back to Indiana from Georgia, and I lived I lived in Snellville, so it's like an hour away from Covington. So I think it was about location and that it reminded me of home, of Georgia, which Indiana is my home, but you know, once you've been south, it's your home. And so that's what started it. And then you start, there's something about that show that when you watch it, you feel like you're there. You feel like you're a part of it. And then once you start going to Covington and seeing these filming sites, then it's like going there. Like you're on this. I know that sounds crazy, but it's like you're on the set. You're at the courthouse. You're at the police department. You're at the hospital or Dee's house or Lana's house or where the school was and now been torn down. I mean, there's some things that still look the same as it did 30 years ago. Some places look completely different and some are now gone, unfortunately. But I think that's it. I mean, we just feel like it's one of those shows that when you watch it, you feel like you know these people. They've been in your house for 30 years, and now you can watch it on Prime, Amazon Prime. They have a whole Heat of the Night channel. They run all the episodes in order from beginning to end, 24 hours a day, and also it's on demand. So if you got a favorite that you want to watch, or you want to go back and watch to rewind it and see where that actual location is, so we can visit it next time, that's what we do. So yeah, that's my feelings.
Oh wow, that's great.
That is great.
Who was Michael? Who just asked the question? Was it you, Michael?
Michael,
Yeah.
he asked all
Oh,
of
you go ahead.
I asked for everybody
Yeah,
because I like
I
to
want-
get.
Go ahead,
I-
Mike.
My wife, she told me, said, you know, you may be married to me, but you really love In the Heat of the Night because I watch it 24/7. I mean, you know, now that they got that, what's the channel, Laurie? The Prime channel. I watch it 24/7. When I'm Ubering on the weekends, I got one separate phone for Uber, but I got my other phone on the heat of the night. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, I watch it 24/7. Love it.
That's let's see some of that. I'll tell you one thing you guys have missed. There's an episode where we're having a picnic at somebody's backyard.
The Tibbs.
It was the Tibbs
Yeah.
backyard.
And
And
Howard
Mm.
calls me Tom
Yep.
in the scene. He said, "Here you go, Tom," and it made it into the edit because he's supposed to say, "Here you go, Ted." And so I didn't say anything. Well, I said something to Howard later, and he said, "Oh, don't say nothing." And so whoever was edited just left it stay in there. So,
Mhm. Yes.
and sometimes in Tom every now and then.
We didn't know about that, Tom. We didn't even catch it until you had mentioned it when Antley and I were on the show before. So
Yeah.
we didn't doubt you. We just wanted to go find it. And we did,
Yeah.
right? But it was so natural. I mean, I think that
It did.
I
It
think
did.
that in the heat
Right.
of the night,
He just rolled right into it. And I'm like, wait a minute. Did he just call Ted Tom? You know, I gotta go back and rewind this.
Well, I loved Howard. Howard, he was so smooth. The first thing I did was with Howard, and I was Melvin
Mhm.
the first year I was on the show, and he was just
We're trying to get him to run for
great to work with.
the chief.
Yeah,
And you was
Yeah.
walking right beside the police department under those white columns.
that's
Y'all got here, I know what that is.
it was
Right
the
down the
appliance
street from the
for
police
them.
department, up under those white columns. Him and Ted walking down the street like ain't nothing.
yeah, and it was great. Howard was wonderful to work with. He was so good. God, he was great at it. So who else has got comment? Let's see. Let's get these photos up then. Let's see what Sean, you got some photos I think they brought back from Sparta. Okay. There's Anthony. Y'all can narrate them if you want to.
That's when we recreated that scene with Dee at the House of Clay. That's from the Small War episode. And that was 4th of July with the sheriff, the real sheriff. That's our pastor's chest, and we go down there we worship every time we go at his church.
Okay.
Anthony and I were twins. Can't y'all see the resemblance?
Yes.
What is this, man? That's a big picnic party, huh?
That was the 4th of July.
Okay.
Everybody gathers at the square. We get up at 8:30 in the morning and go put our lawn chairs out in our specific spot because there's thousands of people that come there. So we always have our spot.
Do they come for the 4th of July, or is the heat of the night mixed into that?
The fireworks
Okay.
over the courthouse.
Okay.
The fireworks display in Covington every year is, you know how when you watch fireworks and they have the grand finale at the end and it's always bigger, you know, the fireworks in Covington is like a grand finale the entire time.
Wow.
And they synchronize it to music. And I've never seen so much in my life of fireworks at one time. It's the best show I've ever seen.
It is.
Wow.
I agree.
Michael Barr.
Yeah. The whole show is like
Yes.
a grand finale.
That's cool.
Michael, Barbara.
I was going to ask if each of you have a favorite episode and why.
I thought you was gonna say a favorite character. And
Well, I was going to get to that too, but I know they were all going to say it was Ted Marcus.
Please
so
don't do that. Don't do that question because that's gonna limit to me. So we can do another question.
Favorite episode. Favorite
Today
episode.
our favorite is Ted Marcus.
I'm gonna say Sweet
Okay.
Sweet.
or Virgil.
Mhm. Okay.
He was cool. He was.
Favorite
Mhm.
episode for me is I think it's Perversions of Justice, and the where the little boy falsely accuses his teacher of molesting him because his father kind
Oh
of
yeah.
encouraged that. You know, the father kind of talked it into the little boy's head that maybe his teacher had touched him inappropriately. And
Right.
this teacher was falsely accused, and the school board, you know, calling for him to be fired. People were driving around town, you know, throwing things through his windows and trying to hurt him. And then in the end, we see how the chief particularly works with the little boy and gets the truth. And you see how damaging falsehoods and false rumors can be to somebody.
Okay.
It's a serious episode, but it's at the same time, you know, you see how delicate it can be.
Right. What about you, Anthony?
Well, favorite episode is the pilot show of the Heat of the Night where it all began. Even though that started in Louisiana, Carol had moved it over to Covington, Conyers, and so forth because it was more of an area that was widespread. But it's the beginning of Heat and the love of the show and the love of the cast between Carol and Bubba, where even Chief told Bubba to be in full uniform, not wearing white socks. So hopefully that, you know, that the more that the show grows, that people watch it, the more that, you know, we have a bigger fan base watching it, and even along with Ted Marcus.
Yeah. Okay. You know, Carol wrote many of the scripts. I'm trying to think of the name he wrote under.
Matt Harris.
Matt Harris. There you go. There you go. Yeah. He'd sit up there and write them longhand. We'd be working on one, and he'd be writing the next one while we were working on it.
He was phenomenal.
Yeah, he was a good guy for me. He really was. Michael, you got anything else?
Yeah, I have a question, and this is for anybody that wants to answer it, or all of you. When it comes time to rewrite the show and bring it up to the 21st century, so to speak, and where we are now in the 2024s, what would be the theme around that show, and what would have happened to come to today's time?
Oh Lord.
I think that at first that we should do a remembrance of Carol and Virgil and Hugh, those cast members that had passed, that we do a remembrance of them first. And then from there, seeing that if we can get some of the regular cast members from before to see if they'll be a part of the new show or the updated version, in some part whether they're still city councilmen or even the mayor. I think that even each of us, if we were asked to be a part of the new updated show, would probably be interesting to see what characters that they will give us, or even just stand-ins for someplace. That it would be very interesting to see a new version of Heat with some of the old faces involved with it.
I think that, you know, when you look at some of the themes, like when I watched it when it was first run, I was in school, and we talked about the episodes. There was an episode about rape. There was an episode about crack and drugs. Episode about AIDS. Several episodes dealing with race relations. And those are topics that we talked about after watching the show. We would talk about it actually in our classroom in school. And I think if you fast forward to modern times, these are still the topics.
Yeah.
You know, back then it was crack cocaine ruining the world, and now you just change it over to the fentanyl heroin crisis. You know what's happened. We still don't have a cure for AIDS, but we don't have people necessarily dying from it every day like we did back then. You know, rape still exists, race relations and the disparity in races still exist, and I think that I really think that it's still just almost, to me, just as relevant today as it was when it was first run. I just think you could modernize some of the topics a little bit, but the same overall themes and the hard-hitting topics that were discussed on the show still exist.
Well, I think that's part of Carol's genius way of doing things, because I remember watching him in an interview, and he said, why are we making up storylines when we have these real life events all around us? You know, like Give Me Your Life was similar to Waco. I mean, it was a cult type situation that ended up tragic, but that was real life. And I remember living in Georgia when it was filmed, and times were hard. We were in a recession, and he really centralized, like Jason said, it was real life events. And I think that's another reason why people can relate to it so much, is the way it's presented, that even though there were race topics, Carol kind of just, I don't know, it was just overcome easily. And you know, you saw the evolution of Bubba and Virgil's relationship, how, you know, it was kind of rough at first, but eventually they become really good friends in the show and could work well together. And you know, I just think that it was the real life, just how Carol wrote it, and just brought everyone, you just felt like you were a part of it, and you could totally relate to every episode.
He did shows like First Girl, where he brought the first Black woman police officer on the show. He did show My Name is Hank, where he brought the Asian guy, and he wrote all those shows.
Yes.
And so he did. He brought a lot of it into things. And I'll tell you the other thing I thought he did, because when the show folded and I went to Los Angeles, I worked on several shows with Pete, Charlie. We always worked together. We worked on Jeepers together. We worked on I can't think of the name of the show, some crazy show Botchko did. So he provided a lot of work for people.
He did.
After that show, I would run into people who had worked on In the Heat of the Night.
Did anybody notice that the two shows that Ted named, that he was in them? Did y'all notice that, Laurie, Jason Anthony? He named My Name is Hank. Well, we know he could have did with Hank to keep him from going back to Singapore, wherever he was from.
He did. He tried to help him. Yeah.
Then he named First Girl. You know, he was on the bench at the end out there in the park. You know, he just named his own show, but you know, maybe that's just him.
And coming after All in the Family, people always ask me, how was he? Was he a nice man? Because you know he wasn't nice on All in the Family.
Right, that's right.
How did he handle all that race stuff and stuff? And you know, he was Carol was pretty cool. And I tell you this, he loved Howard. God Almighty.
Yes, he did. He went to bat him for many times.
We would we'd have to wait on Howard all the time. Everybody would be ready. We'd be ready to shoot. They said, well, what are we waiting on? Well, we're waiting on Howard. So we would just wait. And then when Howard showed up, Carol would say, okay, Howard's here. And he'd go over to hug Howard. Wow. And then we'd start working. You know, Howard was great, though. He really was. He ended up in jail for a little while. And Carol would always come, and he told us that Howard was in jail. He was there for 6 months, some stuff he did. I don't know what he did. And Yeah, he told us to write him a letter.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote him a letter, and he wrote me one back. I still got it. You know, Howard was good. Howard was a gentle soul. He was a great actor. He was one of the best actors I've ever seen. But he was Howard. I mean, he was Howard. He was going to be Howard 24/7. So
What you
I
see
can't
is what you
Wouldn't have
get.
been the show without him.
Virgil, but Howard.
go ahead. So I heard 3 or 4 people there.
Oh, sorry.
It wouldn't have been a show without him. You know, each
No, it
cast
wouldn't.
members.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, you couldn't replace them because it wouldn't have been the same.
Right.
You know, it wouldn't have been the heat of the night if we didn't have Ted Marcus on the city council. It wouldn't be the same.
And
Even
then
though
they
him and
brought
Holly
Denise
Cromer
in.
didn't get along, it wouldn't have been the same without them two guys.
There you go. Michael, I think you had something.
Nothing. All I was saying in regards to Howard is, it is what it is. You know, what you see is what you get, as you say. It's still going to be Howard.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
You know, one of the great things about my going over there was my basketball coach was the coach at Covington High School. My high school basketball coach.
Wow.
And I went to watch him win his 500th game. I knew he and his wife, and he was coaching. He said, you know, I'm coaching for my 500th win next week, and I want you to come. And so I did, and it was great. I saw him. There was a little health club right across from the hotel, and I was over there walking around that track one day, and I ran into him. We had a great time. So, anybody got anything else? So, when's the next trip to Covington?
I have to ask my wife when that will be. I'm gonna let the rest of y'all answer that. I'm gonna have to ask my wife.
Whatever
when I can go back.
Antley, welcome to the club, brother.
I told you it was all going to change, Antley.
You know, if I go back again too soon, she might take me back to divorce court for real. So.
Okay, anybody got anything else? Man, I think it's great what you guys are doing. I remember the first when I came over there for that reunion that night, and Antley was telling me all my lines. As Ted
He does that.
Damn, this guy knows everything.
Well, come on back. I have to give you a refresher course.
Okay.
I'll refresh you.
That sounds good. All right. Anybody got anything else?
Can I just say one thing about, I just want to talk about Tom Gossam Jr. for 1 second and not Ted Marcus. But when you did come over for the reunion that we had, we had just met Ron Colbert, who played the sheriff, and he was battling cancer. And he brought a duffel bag that Carol had given the cast, and we were selling raffle tickets because we were trying to help Ron with his medical expenses. And I want to tell you what kind of a classy guy Ted Gossam Jr. is. He handed me, I'm not going to say how much, but handed cash and said, I don't want tickets. I already have a bag. He said, I just want to help with the medical expenses. That's a classy guy to just
Classic guy.
Yeah.
Classic.
And not ask for anything. He just came with his heart. He mingled and talked with the cast. He gave us all the time that we wanted or needed, or, answered with such patience, took pictures. It was incredible. And Tom, we just want to thank you for allowing us to be on this show and for coming into our living rooms and being Ted Marcus every now and then. We love you. We love you.
Yes, we do.
I appreciate it. You guys are great. And it's just amazing how that show is continued on. I always say Gunsmoke was the longest running television show around, but I think Heat of the Night is right on its tail.
Yes, it is.
Well, on the fan club page on Facebook, we are seeing some people that are watching it for the very first time because it is on so many streaming platforms now that we're seeing people that are just now seeing stuff, and they're just like baby heaters, you know. They've never seen this show before, and they're loving it. And I asked Steve one time, I said, did y'all think when you were filming 30 years ago that Heat would still be what it is today? And she said, heck no.
No. You know,
But, people are still loving it. New time people, not just us old people, but the new time people. So it's incredible.
When you're on a show, we would do, I think we'd do 22 episodes a year.
Yeah.
And near the end of the year, it was always, is the show going to come back next year? Well, they say it might come back, it might not come back. So everybody's worried about their job. You know, so we're going to have a job next year or not. And, you know, it kept going and kept going. So
thank goodness. And you still keep going. You're going and going like the Energizer Bunny.
Yeah. Anybody got anything else? Well, I want to thank you guys for keeping the show alive. I want to thank you for coming on this show. And
thank you for having us.
I've enjoyed
Appreciate
you guys. And
Appreciate it.
And they will even let you talk about South Carolina. You ain't said nothing about South Carolina today.
I mean,
Michael even talked about Clemson, and you didn't say nothing about South Carolina.
You know, just like Auburn, you know, I don't talk to the middle of the season because I know how it's going to go. We talked earlier, you know, that first game, you know, we got some slack team that we're going to play. We know we're going to beat them. And after that, you know, it's praying every week. So that's why I'm not really saying too much. What can I say? It's South Carolina.
Michael,
as long as we beat Auburn, I'm happy.
You got anything else, Michael Barber?
Just want to say thank you for joining us today. It was fun.
Thank you.
Anthony, Jason, thank you guys so much. We appreciate you. Maybe I'll get over to Covington again. And, so
we would love that.
We would.
Yeah.
Let me
we had to go clean the office out. The last time I went, it had cobwebs. And I asked the guard, "Does he ever come in this office?" Like, you know, him and Holly Truman got into a fight, and they both went their separate ways. I ain't seen them since. So, you know, you let me know. I'll have to go down there and clean it out for you.
All right, sounds good. Thank you guys. Appreciate you very much.
Thanks, y'all.
All right. Okay, my closing comment, or as I see it, is in the heat of the night, made many careers, including mine. When the show ended, I hooked on with Miss Evers Boys, and then it was off to Los Angeles. We shot Miss Evers Boys in Atlanta. In Los Angeles, while I was there, I got to do Fight Club, Jeepers Creepers 2, West Wing, ER, NYPD Duke, Boston Legal, Queen and Slim, Son of the South, Containment, CSI, and many, many others. In the entertainment business, you have to get a break. Either someone likes you, takes a chance on you, someone sees you in another show and they hire you on the strength of that, or for a variety of other reasons. I never doubted I was hired on In the Heat of the Night because of Carroll O'Connor. I walked into that audition and he asked me if I had played the councilman the year before when they shot a 2-hour television movie. That guy was named Melvin Lemon. My answer was kind of smart alecky because it was obvious, but it was obviously what he was looking for. You played the city councilman last year, he questioned me. Yes, I responded. So why you want to give my job to somebody else? He responded, I won't give your job to somebody else. It's your job. And that's where it started. Because of that interaction, I've now worked over 100 television, film, and commercials. And that's as an actor, man, I've worked in South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, Mississippi, Louisiana, Tennessee, California, and Utah. All thanks goes back to Carroll O'Connor. And that's our show for today. I want to thank the audience. We appreciate you. I want to thank our G-List guests in the Heat of the Night fan club. Thank our sponsor, Best Girl. Thanks again to the TWT team, Barbara, Sean, Emily, Michael, and Joyce. And that's it for this July 30th. Remember, a day without a smile is a day wasted. If you've got an extra one, give it to someone else. Enjoy yourself. Make every day count. Stay safe. Peace.